Rafi lived in a small, peaceful town with his young daughter Sana and their loyal dog Milo. Their house sat at the end of a quiet street with tall trees on both sides. Rafi worked long hours at a small repair shop, so when he came home he enjoyed spending time with his daughter and their dog. Sana was 8 years old, cheerful, curious, and always asking questions. Milo had been with them since he was a tiny puppy, and he had grown into a smart and gentle dog who followed Sana everywhere. For years, everything in the house felt normal, but over the last month, Rafi began to notice something unusual. Every night, after Sana finished brushing her teeth and climbed into bed, Milo would enter her room and climb onto the mattress. He did not lie at the foot of the bed like he always did before. Instead, he pressed his body right against Sana's back and stayed there the entire night. At first, Rafi found it cute. He thought that Milo enjoyed being close to Sana, but after a few days he felt something was strange. Milo never left that position once he settled. His ears stayed alert even when he looked asleep. Every time Rafi checked on Sana late at night, he saw Milo in the exact same spot, his head near her shoulder. His body still and watchful. Sana loved the feeling. She would giggle when Milo climbed up on her bed. She said his warmth made her sleep better. She treated it like a fun routine. But Rafi could not stop wondering why the dog seemed so focused. It was not normal for a dog to stay in one position the whole night without moving. One night, after Sana had fallen asleep, Rafi stood by the doorway and watched. The room was dim, and a soft nightlight glowed from a small lamp near the window. Sana lay on her side with her small hands tucked under her cheek. Milo entered the room quietly. He walked in circles on the bed once, then rested behind Sana, placing himself close enough that she could feel his steady breathing. His eyes were open. His ears were standing. He did not look sleepy at all. Instead, he looked like he was waiting for something. Rafi frowned. Why was Milo acting like this? He could not think of any reason. There were no loud noises at night. There were no strangers in the house. And Sana seemed perfectly fine every morning. For a week, Rafi tried to ignore it, but the thought stayed in his mind every day. During breakfast, he would watch Milo closely. During the afternoon, he would look for signs of sickness or worry. But Milo acted completely normal during the day. He played in the yard, chased butterflies, and followed Sana around with his tail wagging. Only at night did he become serious. One morning, after another long night of watching over Sana, Milo came downstairs with tired eyes. Rafi noticed it right away. The dog had barely moved all night, and now he looked exhausted. Rafi knelt beside him and touched his soft ears. Milo leaned into his hand but still seemed alert. "What is going on with you, buddy?" Rafi whispered. He knew he was not going to get an answer, but he also knew he could no longer ignore the behavior. Something made Milo stay on Sana's back, something only Milo sensed. That evening, after tucking Sana into bed, Rafi made a decision. He looked around the room and found a small camera he used for recording family events. It was small enough to hide, and it had good night vision. He attached it to a high shelf facing Sana's bed. He made sure it could see the whole room. He felt a little uneasy recording his daughter's bedroom, but his worry for her safety was stronger. He told himself he would delete the recordings once. He understood Milo's behavior. Sana slept peacefully as Milo climbed onto the bed again. Rafi sat for a moment, watching them. Milo placed his head gently near Sana's shoulder and moved even closer to her back. Sana smiled in her sleep. Rafi felt a wave of love for both his daughter and the loyal dog who cared so deeply for her. He stepped out of the room and closed the door softly. The night felt longer than usual. Rafi lay in his own bed but barely slept. Every few minutes he imagined what he might find on the recording. Maybe Milo sensed a small sound. Maybe he was just being overly protective. Maybe it was nothing at all. But the thought that it could be something important made him restless. When the sun finally rose, Rafi's eyes were tired. Sana came out of her room with her usual bright smile. She looked refreshed. She hugged Milo tightly and thanked him for sleeping beside her again. Milo wagged his tail but looked sleepy. Sana ran to the kitchen to get breakfast. Rafi gave Milo a gentle pat, then hurried to his computer. He connected the camera and opened the recording. His heart felt heavy with nervousness. At first the video showed exactly what he had seen with his own eyes. Sana fell asleep. Milo climbed onto the bed. He pressed close to her back. Everything seemed perfectly normal. Rafi watched for 30 minutes. Nothing changed. He fast-forwarded to midnight. The camera showed the room quiet and still. Sana slept peacefully. Milo rested behind her but remained alert. Then the moment came. Milo suddenly lifted his head. His ears rose sharply. He stared at the corner of the room near the door. The light in the room was dim, but the camera captured the movement clearly. Milo shifted closer to Sana and placed his paw gently on her hip, as if trying to protect her. Rafi stared at the screen. Milo was reacting to something, but the camera showed nothing unusual in the corner. No shadows moved. Nothing entered. Everything looked completely normal. Milo stayed tense for several minutes. His eyes moved slowly as if tracking something across the room. Then he pressed his body back against Sana again, more firmly than before. Rafi felt his heart beat faster. He rewound and watched again. Milo's reaction was real. The dog had sensed something in that corner, but Rafi could not see anything. The room looked empty. He leaned back in his chair. His hands were cold. The video did not answer his worries. It only made him more confused. Why would Milo act like that? What made him alert every night? Why did he stay on Sana's back without moving? Raffi looked toward the hallway where Milo was sleeping. The dog was loyal and brave. If he sensed something unusual, it meant something was happening. Maybe it was something small, maybe something harmless. But Raffi could not guess without more proof. He saved the video and decided he would record the room. Again the following night. He needed more evidence. He needed to understand what Milo was trying to protect Sana from. Raffi took a deep breath and rubbed his forehead. The day had barely started, but he already felt tired. He closed the video file and turned off the computer. There was only one thing he knew for certain. Milo was trying to tell him something, and Raffi had to find out what it was. Raffi spent the whole day thinking about what he had seen in the recording. He tried to focus on his work at the repair shop, but his mind kept drifting back to Milo lifting his head and staring at the corner of Sana's room. Every small sound in the shop made him jump a little. His hands moved slowly on his tools, and he often stopped, lost in thought. His co-worker asked him twice if everything was fine, and each time Raffi nodded with a smile that did not feel natural. He did not want to worry anyone before he understood the situation himself. When he returned home in the evening, Sana came running to him with a drawing she made at school. Raffi lifted her up with a warm smile. For a moment he forgot all his worries. Sana had that effect on him. She brought light into the house, but Milo stood behind her with his tail moving very slowly, not excited like he usually was. Milo looked directly at Raffi, as if asking him silently if he had figured out the mystery yet. Raffi knelt and rubbed Milo's head. The dog leaned into his hand again, but his eyes were still serious. Raffi whispered to himself that he would get answers tonight after dinner. Sana played with her toys while Raffi checked the camera again. He made sure the battery was full and the angle was correct. He felt more ready than the night before, when it was time for Sana to sleep. She brushed her teeth and climbed into bed with her usual smile. Raffi tucked her in gently. She looked peaceful and calm. Milo sat near the door, waiting as soon as Sana's eyes closed. Milo climbed onto the bed and took his place behind her. Raffi watched closely. Milo adjusted his position until he was pressed to her back. Then he became still. Raffi whispered a soft good night and left the room. He closed the door and waited. The house became quiet. The night was cool. Raffi sat in the living room with the lights low, listening to every small noise. He wanted to check the recording immediately, but he knew he had to wait until morning. He did not want to disturb the natural behavior of Milo and Sana. Hours passed, and sleep finally pulled Raffi into a light rest. Morning arrived with sunlight slipping through the curtains. Sana woke up smiling as always. Milo yawned and stretched, looking tired but content. Raffi quickly prepared breakfast, but his hands kept shaking slightly. He wanted to rush to the computer, but he did not want to worry Sana. She chatted happily about school while Milo sat near her feet. After breakfast, Raffi sent her to get ready for school, then hurried to the computer. The new recording played on the screen. At first everything looked the same as before. Sana sleeping peacefully, Milo resting beside her. Nothing unusual. Raffi waited, his heart beating faster. He watched the clock on the screen as it moved toward midnight. Then something happened. Milo lifted his head again. His ears rose, but this time, he stood up completely. His body became straight and tight. His eyes focused again on the same corner of the room. Raffi leaned closer to the screen. His breath slowed. Milo stepped forward on the bed carefully, trying not to disturb Sana. He put himself between her and that corner. He moved with purpose, watching something the camera could not capture. Raffi felt a chill run down his arms. He did not understand. There was nothing on the screen except the shadow of a chair and the pattern on the wall. But Milo was watching something very closely. His head tilted left, then right, as if tracking movement. Milo then lowered his body slightly, not in fear but in attention. He looked ready to act, but he remained calm, almost gentle. He was careful not to wake Sana. For several minutes he watched the corner. Then, slowly he returned to her side. He pressed his body against her again, even closer than before. Raffi replayed the scene, trying to understand what Milo had sensed, but nothing on the screen gave any clue. He rubbed his forehead and felt his heart sink. The situation was more puzzling than ever. Milo was not reacting randomly. He reacted at the same time each night, to the same corner of the room. That meant something was there, something the dog could detect even if the camera could not. Raffi needed more information. He felt a growing need to solve the mystery for the sake of Sana's safety. That afternoon he decided to rearrange the room. He moved the shelf where the camera sat to a different position. He placed the camera higher, facing the entire room from a better angle. He made sure nothing blocked its view. He also took extra care to check the camera settings when Sana returned from school. She noticed her room looked different. "Why is everything moved around, Baba?" she asked with wide eyes. Raffi smiled and said he was cleaning the room and wanted to make it look better. Sana accepted the answer happily. She loved when her room looked refreshed. Milo, however, sensed something more. He sniffed around the room with extra attention. He walked near the corner where he always stared at night. His nose lowered, then lifted. His ears twitched. He looked unsure, as if trying to understand why Rafi had changed things. Rafi watched him silently. He could see Milo's confusion. For a moment, he wondered if moving the room would disturb Milo's sense of whatever he detected, but he needed clearer footage, so he kept everything in place. Night came again. This time Rafi stayed awake longer. He could not sleep. He kept checking the clock and listening to the quiet house. Every now and then he stood near the hallway, staring at the door to Sanaa's room. A part of him wanted to open the door and sit beside Sanaa, but he knew he needed to trust the process. He waited until the early morning sunlight appeared. Then he rushed to the computer before Sanaa woke up. He opened the third recording. This time the camera saw the entire room clearly. No corner was hidden. The video began with Sanaa sleeping. Milo curled behind her, calm and steady. Hours passed on the screen. Then the moment arrived. Milo lifted his head again, exactly at the same time as the previous 2 nights. But this time his reaction was different. Instead of staring only at the corner, he looked at the ceiling for a moment, then at the wall, then back to the corner. Rafi felt his stomach tighten. Milo was tracking movement again, but his eyes were following something unseen across the room. Something was entering the room, something moving slowly from place to place, something the camera could not see. Milo stepped forward, placed a protective paw lightly on Sanaa's back, and watched carefully. Rafi whispered to himself without thinking, "What are you sensing, my friend?" Milo remained steady for a long time. Finally, he lowered himself again and returned to Sanaa's back, pressing his body against hers with even more care. Rafi stopped the recording. His eyes were wide, his heart unsteady. There was no doubt now. Milo was sensing something that came every night, something gentle enough not to bother Sanaa but strange enough to make Milo stay close to her. Rafi sat silently for a long time. The air in the room felt heavier. He needed to understand this mystery. It was no longer about curiosity. It was about understanding whatever surrounded his daughter at night. Milo was doing his best to keep Sanaa safe. Now Rafi needed to know why. Rafi spent the entire morning thinking about the new recording. He kept seeing the same moment in his mind. Milo lifting his head. Milo staring at the ceiling. Milo following something across the room that the camera could not capture. The dog was not scared, only focused. Whatever he sensed did not harm Sanaa, but it definitely caught his full attention. Rafi knew dogs noticed things humans often missed. They could hear soft footsteps, smell tiny changes in the air, and sense shifts that people could not feel. But this felt different. Milo reacted every night at the same time. That was the part that made Rafi uneasy. By afternoon he decided he needed help, not from a doctor, not from a technician, and not from a neighbor. He thought of someone who knew more about animals than anyone else he knew. An old friend named Ayan who worked with rescue dogs in another part of town. Ayan visited homes, trained dogs, and understood animal behavior better than anyone Rafi had met. If anyone could give him real insight, it would be Ayan. Rafi waited until evening and sent him a message asking if he could visit the next day. Ayan agreed. Sanaa noticed her father had been quiet all day. She sat beside him while drawing pictures of flowers. She looked up at him. "Baba, are you feeling tired?" she asked in her soft voice. Rafi smiled and kissed her forehead. "I am fine, just thinking." Sanaa nodded and continued drawing. Milo lay at her feet with his head resting on her toes, never too far from her. The night arrived quickly. Rafi set the camera again, though he did not change the angle this time. He needed to capture as much as possible. He felt he was missing a small piece of the puzzle but did not know what it was. Sanaa brushed her teeth, hugged her father, and got into bed. Milo waited near the door until she started closing her eyes. Then he climbed onto the bed, found his position behind her, and rested his head near her shoulder. Rafi watched for a moment before stepping out. Every night he felt the same worry. He wanted to understand but also trusted Milo. The dog had never failed to protect Sanaa. When morning came, Rafi woke up earlier than usual. He checked the recording but stopped halfway through. He decided it was better to wait for Ayan before drawing any conclusions. Ayan arrived shortly after breakfast. He was a kind man with a calm face and steady eyes. He always spoke with patience and warmth. Sanaa liked him because he used to bring treats for Milo. When Ayan entered the house, Milo wagged his tail softly and approached him. Ayan bent down and patted the dog gently. He looked at Rafi and said, "Milo looks healthy and alert. What did you want to show me?" Rafi led him to the computer. He played the recordings one after another, explaining everything he had seen during the nights. Ayan watched closely, leaning forward with interest. He did not interrupt. He observed every movement of Milo on the screen with sharp attention. When the third recording ended, Ayan sat back and took a slow breath. Rafi waited for him to speak. Finally, Ayan said, "Milo is showing protective behavior, not defensive or scared. He is watching something that he believes is part of the room, something small, something harmless, something that comes and goes quietly." Rafi felt confused. "But what is he seeing there? Is nothing on the camera?" Ayan nodded. "That does not mean nothing is there. Dogs have strong senses. They notice very small things. A sound, a smell, a moving light, or a small change in air. Even a soft presence can make them react." Rafi looked at the screen again. "But it happens every night. always around the same time. Ayan crossed his arms and thought for a moment. This pattern means it is something that visits regularly, something that only Milo can sense, something that is not dangerous. If it were dangerous, Milo would bark or wake you, but he stays calm. He only stays close to Sana to make sure she feels safe. Raffi lowered his voice. Do you think it could be something natural like airflow or light from outside? Ian looked unsure. It might be, but dogs do not only react to things they see, they react to memories, feelings, sounds, and even scents left in the air. Maybe Sana reminds Milo of someone important from his past. Maybe he senses something gentle around her that comforts him. Dogs can feel emotional presence too. Raffi listened carefully. He felt slightly lighter but still confused. Ayan looked at Milo, who sat quietly near Sana's drawings. He walked over and knelt beside the dog. He studied his eyes and ears. Then he called Milo gently. Milo wagged his tail and walked toward him with trust. Ayan smiled. This dog is not scared. He is connected to Sana deeply. That is the reason he stays beside her. Something in her room at night brings out this bond even more strongly. Raffi asked, what should I do? Now I haven't replied. Keep the camera if you want, but do not worry too much. Whatever Milo senses is gentle. Dogs do not act relaxed if they feel danger. Milo is sleeping with her because he wants her to sleep peacefully. Before leaving, Ayan added, if something changes, call me. But for now, let Milo continue what he is doing. Sometimes a dog sees kindness where we see emptiness. After Ayan left, Raffi sat on the sofa with mixed feelings. He trusted Ayan, but he still felt a small pull of worry. Something visited Sana's room every night. Something only Milo noticed. Later, in the afternoon, Raffi entered Sana's room again. The sunlight came through the window and everything looked peaceful. The corner that Milo always watched looked ordinary. Nothing unusual. Just a wall, a small chair, and some toys. Raffi walked around the room checking everything carefully. He touched the curtains. He checked the wardrobe. He even checked behind a small bookshelf. Everything looked normal. While searching, he noticed something small on Sana's nightstand. A tiny silver bracelet. It was very old and slightly scratched. It belonged to Sana's mother, who had passed away years ago. Raffi had placed it there long ago, but rarely paid attention to it. Sana sometimes held the bracelet before sleeping. She said it made her feel close to her mother. Raffi picked it up gently. It felt warm in his hand. Milo walked into the room at that moment. His eyes went straight to the bracelet. He stepped closer and sniffed it, then looked at Raffi with soft eyes. Raffi felt a sudden thought cross his mind. Could Milo be sensing something connected to the bracelet? Maybe a scent, maybe a feeling, maybe something emotional that humans could not detect. He placed the bracelet back on the nightstand. Milo sniffed it again, then sat calmly beside Sana's bed. That night, Raffi watched from the hallway as Sana fell asleep. Milo entered after a few minutes and took his place beside her again. He was calm. He was steady. He looked peaceful. Raffi felt something shift inside him. Milo was not only protecting Sana, he was connecting with something special, something gentle, something that brought him to her side every night. Whatever Milo sensed, it was not something to fear. It felt like something that belonged to the house, something that cared for Sana too. Raffi stepped back quietly, for the first time since the recordings began. Raffi felt just a little bit of calm. Milo stayed on Sana's back. The night stayed quiet, and the presence that Milo sensed continued to visit, gentle as ever. Raffi woke up early the next morning with a new idea taking shape in his mind. The bracelet on Sana's nightstand had stirred something inside him. He kept remembering the way Milo reacted to it. The dog had looked at the bracelet with gentle eyes, almost as if he recognized something comforting in it. Raffi had never thought deeply about the small object before, but now it felt more important than ever. Sana's mother had worn that bracelet every single day before she passed away. It carried memories, traces of her scent, and a connection to the past that Raffi had not paid attention to for a long time. Maybe Milo sensed something related to that connection. Maybe he felt something near Sana that was peaceful and familiar. The possibility made Raffi feel both emotional and thoughtful. After breakfast, he watched Sana tie her school shoes while Milo waited near the door. Sana hummed happily, unaware of the thoughts spinning in her father's mind. She kissed Milo on the head before leaving, and Milo's tail wagged slowly and softly like a gentle wave. Once she left, Raffi sat by the computer again and opened the recordings one more time. He watched how Milo behaved each night. The dog never panicked. He never barked. He simply observed, then stayed close to Sana's back. His actions were steady and controlled. Raffi whispered to himself, it feels like he knows. Her mother is watching over her. Saying it out loud felt strange but comforting at the same time. He did not mean it literally. He meant it in a gentle sense, as if memories or a presence of love stayed around the child. Something that connected both Milo and Sana. Later in the day, Raffi went to the backyard and sat down on the small bench near the garden. Milo followed him and rested at his feet. Raffi ran his fingers through Milo's fur. You are trying to protect her, right? Raffi said softly. Milo lifted his head and looked at him with warm eyes. The dog did not need to speak. Raffi understood just from the way he gazed back. Throughout the day, Raffi cleaned every part of the house. partly to keep his mind busy and partly to make sure nothing unusual had been overlooked. He checked the windows, the doors, the corners, the roof, the walls, even the electrical wiring. Everything appeared normal. By evening, Sana returned home with a school project in her hands and a bright smile on her face. Raffi helped her with her homework while Milo lay next to her chair. The dog's presence made the house feel settled and whole. As night approached, Raffi told Sana a bedtime story. She listened with sleepy eyes and hugged Milo tightly before closing them. Milo waited a moment, then climbed onto her bed and found his usual place. Raffi stepped out of the room and closed the door quietly. But instead of going to sleep, he sat down in the hallway. He decided tonight he would stay awake longer. He wanted to watch Milo without disturbing him. He wanted to see with his own eyes what happened before the camera captured it. He waited silently, listening to the soft breathing of the house. The night moved slowly, the clock ticking like a steady heartbeat. After some time, Raffi heard a small shift inside Sana's room. Not a loud sound, only a light movement. He did not open the door, but he leaned forward, attentive and alert. He recognized the sound of Milo adjusting himself. It was a familiar movement, but tonight it felt more meaningful. Raffi remained still, letting the moment pass naturally. When morning arrived, Sana came out of her room with her usual cheerful spark. Milo followed her closely, eyes calm but tired. Raffi smiled at both of them. As soon as Sana left for school, Raffi sat down with a new recording. He wanted to see if anything changed after moving the room and noticing the bracelet. He watched the video carefully. Near midnight, Milo reacted again, but this time something was different. Instead of immediately looking at the corner, he lifted his head slowly and looked at the bracelet on the nightstand first. Then he looked around the room with gentle attention. Milo's posture remained calm, almost soft. He was not tracking anything aggressive or sudden. He was reacting to something that felt familiar to him. Raffi leaned closer to the screen. His heartbeat slowed. His body relaxed. Milo stepped closer to Sana and placed his paw lightly on her back. Then he lowered his head near her shoulder and stayed still for a long time. The atmosphere on the video did not feel tense. It felt warm. Raffi whispered to himself. It feels like he is watching something kind. A small thought began forming in Raffi's mind, one he had not dared to think before. Milo might be reacting to the emotional memory connected to the room. Maybe something in the room reminded him of Sana's mother. Dogs could sense when someone they loved had been important in a space. The bracelet might have carried traces of comfort that calmed Milo. As he thought about this, the door opened slightly and Milo entered the room where Raffi was watching the recording. He sat beside him and rested his head on Raffi's knee. Raffi stroked him gently. "Thank you for taking care of her. You were doing something I could not do alone." Milo blinked slowly, almost as if he understood the gratitude. Later that afternoon, Raffi decided to test a small idea. He walked into Sana's room and picked up the bracelet carefully. He held it in front of Milo. The dog sniffed it, then leaned forward and brushed his head against Raffi's hand, where the bracelet rested. That was enough for Raffi. He placed the bracelet under the small lamp on the nightstand, making sure the light would reflect softly on it at night. He wanted to see if Milo reacted differently now that the bracelet was more visible when night came. Raffi watched from the hallway again. Sana fell asleep peacefully. Milo entered the room as usual and climbed onto the bed. Milo's eyes immediately went to the bracelet. His tail moved once. Slow and gentle, Raffi felt something warm rise in his chest. He returned to his room and waited for morning. When he checked the camera again the next day, he saw that Milo had looked at the bracelet several times during the night. His posture was calm, his movements gentle. He remained protective but not tense. The room felt safe. The presence felt familiar. Milo felt peaceful. Raffi sat back in his chair with a soft breath. He felt closer to the truth now. Milo was not warning them. He was comforting them. Something in the room held a memory of love, and the dog sensed it more deeply than any human could. Raffi finally felt ready to understand the truth Milo had been showing him night after night. Whatever visited the room was not a threat. It was something that made Milo stay close to Sana. And the next part of the mystery was still waiting to unfold. The next morning began with a bright and gentle sun. The house felt warm and peaceful, and for the first time in many weeks, Myra woke up smiling. The first thing she saw was Rocky sitting near her bed with his tail moving slowly. It was not a fast, happy tail. It was soft and calm, like he was making sure she was all right. Myra sat up and hugged him. Rocky adjusted his position and pressed his head against her chest. Arun walked into the room and saw them like this. His heart felt full. He had seen many things in the videos, but this simple, quiet moment was more powerful than anything. He stood by the door for a few seconds and watched them. When Myra noticed him, she laughed and called him over. Arun joined them on the floor and Rocky came closer to place his head in Arun's lap. Arun gently brushed Rocky's fur. He could not believe how much this dog had given their family. Rocky was more than a friend. He was a guardian, a helper, and a silent protector who stayed awake when everyone else slept. Arun wondered how long Rocky had been doing this. The thought made him feel a deep respect for the dog. Later that day, Mira asked if she could play outside. Arun agreed, but he also wanted to continue the idea Dr. Rina had suggested. They needed to help Myra speak openly. He believed outdoor play might help her relax. Rocky followed Myra closely as she ran through the grass. She laughed as he trotted beside her like a loyal shadow. Arun sat on the porch with a warm cup of tea. He could see Myra talking to Rocky as if he understood every word. In a way, he really did. Rocky always reacted at the right time. When Myra laughed, he wagged his tail proudly. When she slowed down, he gently nudged her leg as if asking if she wanted to rest. Everything about him showed care. Dr. Rena arrived after an hour. She walked to the porch with her notebook in hand. Arun greeted her, and they talked for a while before Myra ran over to them with Rocky right behind her. She held Rocky by the collar and smiled at the doctor. Dr. Rena asked if Myra wanted to speak a little today. Myra hesitated, then looked down at Rocky. The dog stood beside her, solid and calm. His firm presence gave her confidence. She slowly nodded. They all sat on the grass together. Rocky placed himself between Myra and the open space, like he was marking a safe boundary for her. Dr. Rena started with simple questions about her day. Myra answered in short sentences, holding Rocky's fur with one hand. Arun watched quietly. Every time Myra felt nervous, Rocky pressed closer. His warm body kept her steady. Dr. Rena noticed this and smiled softly after a while. Dr. Rena closed her notebook and decided to shift the conversation to something lighter. She asked Myra to describe her favorite dream. Myra took a deep breath and told her about a dream where she and Rocky were flying above the trees. Rocky had wings like a giant bird. Myra laughed shyly while explaining it. Arun listened with tears in his eyes. This was the longest Myra had spoken in weeks. When the session ended, Dr. Rena assured Arun that Myra was improving faster than expected. She told him that Rocky was doing wonders for her emotional safety. She even suggested activities that Myra and Rocky could do together to strengthen her confidence. Before leaving, Dr. Rena bent down and patted Rocky. She whispered a soft thank you to him. As the days passed, Myra grew more relaxed. She returned to her old activities little by little. She played with her toys, colored pictures, and even hummed small melodies while sitting in her room. Rocky never left her side. He slept near her bed, followed her around the house, and acted like her silent bodyguard. One evening, when the sky turned purple, Myra brought a small blanket to Rocky. She placed it gently on his back and told him he was her hero. Arun stood at the door and felt a strong warmth spread in his chest. He did not interrupt. This was their moment. Later that night, while Myra slept peacefully, Rocky lay at her door as always. Arun checked the cameras again out of habit. The videos showed what he already knew. Rocky checked on Myra many times, sniffed around the room, and rested only when he felt everything was safe. Arun realized something important. Rocky was not protecting Myra because of a command or training. He was protecting her because he cared deeply. A week passed, then two. Myra started talking more confidently. Her laugh returned fully, bright and joyful. She even helped Arun cook one morning. Rocky stayed beside the kitchen door and watched them with a proud look on his face. One evening, the neighborhood children invited Myra to join a small gathering. Arun was unsure if she was ready, but Myra insisted she wanted to go. Rocky stood beside her like he had already decided he would join. Arun agreed and watched them walk outside together. Myra held Rocky's fur lightly and walked with steady steps. The gathering was cheerful. Myra stayed close to Rocky at first. Some children came to pet him and Rocky accepted them calmly, but he always kept one eye on Myra. After some time, she relaxed and played a small game with the other kids. Rocky lay on the grass where he could see her. Arun watched from a distance and felt proud. That night, Myra rushed into the house happily and hugged Arun tightly. She said she had fun. Rocky followed her inside with a satisfied posture. Myra sat beside him and leaned against his warm body. Arun saw how much she trusted him. He was grateful beyond words. As the months went by, Myra fully recovered her happiness. She talked freely now. She played, learned, and grew stronger every day. Rocky remained her closest friend. Arun often thought about how different things might have been without him. Rocky had changed their lives. One weekend, Arun organized a small celebration at home. He invited friends and neighbors. When everyone arrived, Myra introduced Rocky proudly to each person. She told them that Rocky was the bravest dog in the whole world. Arun smiled and added that Rocky was also the kindest. During the small gathering, Myra gave Rocky a new collar with a tiny silver tag. The tag had one word on it: Guardian. She hung it around his neck carefully. Rocky looked at her with gentle eyes. His tail moved in a slow, soft wave that showed deep affection. That night before bed, Myra whispered to Rocky that she was no longer scared. She told him she felt safe because he was with her. Rocky placed his paw gently on her hand and closed his eyes. Arun stood at the doorway watching the moment quietly. As the lights dimmed and the house settled into silence, Rocky stayed alert but peaceful. He was no longer tense like before. He sensed confidence in Myra now. He knew she was stronger. Still, he kept his place by her door. That was his duty and his choice. Arun felt grateful every single day. The camera had shown him a truth he would never forget. Rocky was not staying with Myra out of habit. He stayed because he understood his role. He stayed because he cared. In the end, The family grew closer, Mira grew braver, Rocky grew more loved, and Arun learned that sometimes a guardian does not need words or explanations. Sometimes a guardian is a faithful friend who stays close, watches quietly, and gives comfort without being asked. Rocky was that friend. Rocky was that guardian, and their home was complete because of him.